So, Hare Krishna, I will talk about something which I feel is very important in our spiritual development, that is how we can gain a victory over our lower self. Now I will speak in English. My English is unfortunately not always very simple, although it is not my mother tongue. So, ich sage noch für die Deutschsprachigen, ich würde euch empfehlen, euch eine Übersetzung anzuhören von der Vorlesung, weil sehr oft ist mein Englisch und die Gedanken ein bisschen komplex. Wer ist von euch ein talentierter Übersetzer?
Ich übersetze, weil die Frage ist, in welche Sprache. Wenn jemand nur Deutsch möchte, dann übersetze ich ins Deutsche.
Ja, von Englisch ins Deutsch.
Ja, ja. Oder ins Russische vielleicht.
Ins Russische, wenn jeder andere.
Ja. Wir wollen einfach mal sehen. Ich frage mal. So, those who speak English, no problem. I will speak in English, but those who... Wer von euch kann nur Deutsch? Und wer kann aber nur Russisch? Sprecht ihr Russisch? Gut Russisch? Ja. Russisch ist gut?
Beides ist klar, Deutsch.
Aber
also ich würde ins Russische übersetzen.
Eben, das ist die russische Mutation. Harascho! Dann gehst du wohl am besten und haraschust ein bisschen. Wie ist es bei dir eigentlich, Nandi? Englisch ist okay? Ja. Gar kein Problem? Ja. Kein Problem. So, Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vaskatyade Satarime. Please everyone join me. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. My dear devotees, once Krishna was asked by Arjuna a very important question. Arjuna had been in a dilemma. He had seen that he needed to do something, but he had also seen how, despite knowing that this would be the best course of action, he felt really unable to do this. At the outset, or at the beginning of the battle of Kurukshetra, a battle where the good was fighting the evil, he knew that he should fight on the side of righteousness. But when he actually confronted the battlefield, the field of action, he became so discouraged that he actually wanted to escape, run away, and go into the forest. He knew that it would be good to stay, but everything in him revolted against this. Everything in him drove him away, told him to escape, to hide, to not do his duty at that moment. So during this inner conflict, he approached Krishna. He had noted that, yes, he was convinced he should do the right thing, but yet he couldn't do it. He said to Krishna, Krishna, please tell me very clearly, I'm turning to you for an answer. What is it in me that, despite my better knowledge, forces me to act in an opposite way? What is it? And Lord Krishna answered by saying, Kama esha krodha esha raja guna samudbhava. And he said something very remarkable. He said, Arjuna, you should know that what forces us sometimes to go against our better knowledge is calm. Calm is often translated with a lust directed towards sense enjoyment, lusting for sexual pleasures or lusting for the pleasures of the tongue. But karma really means all types of desires which we have, which are directed to our own gratification, our own satisfaction. So Krishna said, that which forces a man and a woman to act against their better knowledge is a material desire, karma. My dear devotees, the whole world is resting on desire. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives an analogy which helps us to understand how everything in this world is based on karma, on desire. He says there is the spiritual world which can be compared with a tree which grows on the banks of a lake. And then there is the material world, which can be compared with the reflection of that tree within the water. So this reflection, or this reflected tree, is resting on I'm asking.
Water.
On water. In the same way, Krishna says, this whole material world, this whole material existence is resting on karma, on desire. You are what you are because you desired it. You are living in the way you live because you desired it. You might say, no, I don't desire this miserable existence in Hamburg. I rather would be at the Black Sea. There's nice sun and good fruits. But my dear devotees, there was something which you desired in the past, which brought you in the exact situation in which you find yourself now. Even though you may not appreciate your present circumstances, but you must know they come because of a reaction to some type of desires. This whole material world is resting on desire. And even though Krishna answers to Arjuna, you may now have another understanding, another project, another objective, another goal in your life. You are sometimes forced to act within the old pattern, the old ways, which are contrary because of desire. This is what Krishna says to Arjuna when Arjuna is before the Lord in exasperation is the English word, in desperation. He said, my dear Lord, I want to do what is right, but I feel I'm forced to act according or against my better knowledge. Do you all are able to relate to this dilemma? Do you have a situation where you know I should be doing this, or where you want to be there, but somehow in your life you find yourself doing the opposite? Do you know? Some of us just look at me, shocked that I dare to ask such a question. Of course we know. We would be enlightened if we wouldn't have this dilemma. There is a very nice biblical figure. His name was Paul. Paul had met Jesus and had learned from Jesus something of the Christian values and ideals and so on. But he just could not always act upon that. But he continued to act like the man he was before, that is a brutal soldier. And he said to Jesus, I've written it down, what I would like to do, that I do not do. But what I do not like to do, that is what I do. Very open, very blank, very... And another poet, written him down also, said, I am a battlefield of desires. Some of my desires are sublime. The others are very low. Sometimes the higher man wins, and sometimes the lower man wins. And the bad in my mouth, when I speak bad about others, alternates or changes with the good, what I say good. As in the desert, the sand alternates with the water in the well. A new devotee, a new spiritualist, can be compared with someone who's just waking up from the sleep. He's just coming out of deep sleep and he knows, oh, if I continue to wake up, I soon will be up and start my day. And he decides, it's so warm inside the bed. It doesn't smell very good here, but no problem, it's warm. And I feel so good. And he turns around. And although he is just this much away from waking up, he again chooses to go into deep forgetfulness, deep sleep. I've traveled all over the spiritual scene, if you so want. Means I've met so many people who are on the spiritual path, who come to me after my lectures and who say, Maharaj, I sometimes feel so close to my spiritual fulfillment, but something in me seems to force me to go back to the old ways, to the old ignorance, to the old dilemmas, to my old dreams. Many come to me and they don't feel very good about this, but they feel it's time to be honest. Krishna gives another analogy. He says, the spiritual man can be compared, or the spiritual woman, with fire, but the ignorance can be compared with smoke that covers the fire. So when the fire is not strong enough, the smoke becomes stronger and covers everything. And if you want to have a place without smoke, what do you have to do? I'm asking you. You have to bring some good wind, spark. No. Give fresh oxygen to the spark. Yes, you have to give the very good answer. No, then it becomes stronger and stronger, either by air or bring no wood. So in this stage where we are not any longer the old person, no longer so much in Maya as we used to be, but at the same time we are not yet spiritually enlightened, we are not yet fully Krishna conscious, we don't have love for Krishna in our heart. It's so important that we nourish the fire, that we give food to the fire, that we give the proper circumstances in our life so that our spiritual development can unfold. These proper circumstances are usually association with devotees and discussing about Krishna conscious subject matter in the with these devotees. At that time, it is said, Krishna, you can practice bhakti alone. You can chant at your home, you can sing kirtans at your home, you can offer food at home, but when you do it alone, it's not sweet. Only when you practice Krishna consciousness with like-minded devotees, good devotees of the Lord, it becomes sweet, it becomes full of taste. And at that time, when you taste the sweetness of Krishna consciousness, you become so empowered and so enlivened that Maya cannot touch you, illusion cannot touch you. Once the great devotee Dhruva Maharaj was asked, Dhruva Maharaj, what is your program for becoming Krishna conscious? And he says, I go into the association of devotees and I am chanting the holy names and I'm listening to the wonderful narrations of Lord Krishna in the association of devotees. And the question, the person who asked Dhruva Maharaj says, that's very nice, Dhruva Maharaj, but what's your program for crossing the ocean of samsara, the ocean of material birth, of material birth and death? And he says, Dhruva Maharaj says, if I'm with devotees who chant about Krishna, not about German politics or caste or so on, about Krishna consciousness, then I become almost as if I'm intoxicated, and at that time I'm so enlivened that even if death should stand before me and say, come with me, I will say, I am with devotees. I am not afraid of you. I will hear about Krishna in their association. And at that time, I will see how I cross material existence. Because, let us go back to our original point. The reason why we are acting the way we act, the reason why we are not able to follow our Krishna conscious practice very strictly is because our desires are not purified. We have still impure desires. We have desires which conflict or go opposed to our spiritual interest. And when we hear in the association of devotees about Krishna, our desires become transformed. And instead of desiring Maya, illusions, as we used to do, we now develop strong desires for Krishna. I would like to give you a dramatic example from the Govardhan retreat. So maybe you have heard every year in a few days after the month of Kartik, we have retreats in Vrindavan at the sacred mountain Giriraj Govardhan. This year we had 2 devotees from Hamburg participating in the retreats. It was Vaidyanath and his wife Nitya Siddha. Hare Krishna, know what's up at the moment. Listen. Afterwards, mobile telephone. Now listening. No? Mandir, temple. Yes. We have a garden right next to Govardhan, big garden, and then a big tent is there. One side of the tent is open. It's a tent for 400 people, and when this side is open, we can look directly at the sacred mountain Govardhan. There are often cows on Govardhan, or nilgaus. Nilgais are these mystical blue cows. Sometimes when we give lectures, there's big noise on the roof of the tent. This means the monkeys are there and doing their monkey business. And sometimes it rains a little down. That was when a monkey did not find the toilet. No problem. Yeah. It is usually not happening, but and there, from morning till evening, we hear about Krishna from advanced devotees. For 1 week we have a program of just hearing about Krishna, then we sing a lot of kirtans, we do pujas, sometimes we walk to sacred places, there are theater plays, dramas. It's a full immersion for 1 week in the nectar of Krishna consciousness, right at the sacred place, Giri Govardhan. I can well imagine that you should, it would be very nice for you to come. Try to find out in the internet, you can find these Govardhan retreats, and you can join us, you can stay with us. There are many people from India, many people from Russia also, Germany. It's really international. It's a protected atmosphere of pure Krishna conscious practice. And we all feel after a whole week of only chanting and singing about Krishna that our desires, the very foundation of our life, has been changed, and we now only desire Krishna. It's a very wonderful, you could say it's therapeutic hearing. It's like a therapy. So this year we heard about one very unusual spiritualist. His name was Bilva Mangala Thakur. Bilva Mangala Thakur had been a poet who wrote on the banks of the sacred river Krishnaveni. Now every day he used to hear, when the wind came from the, it was in the west, from the east, he heard music, very nice music. He was writing mostly philosophical theses, and he heard a woman singing. One day he sent his servant over to find out who was singing, and the servant came back and said, it's Chintamani, the most beautiful lady of the country, who lives in a little like mansion, a landhouse on the other side of the Krishnaveni banks. She receives men and entertains them with singing and dancing and other things. So Bilva Mangala developed a desire to see Chintamani, and when he saw her, the most beautiful lady of the land, he became totally attracted to her charms. They had a relationship because she was you say in English courtesan, that's something like a high-class prostitute, and Bilva Mangala forgot all about his wife, he was married, all about his relatives, he was, and his father became so disturbed that my son, my cultured son, has left his wife. He had gone and he's living now with Chintamani. He became so disturbed that he died. "15 Minuten, dann könnt ihr erzählen bis zum geht nicht mehr. Aber du hältst durch." So he became really, so his wife went over to Chintamani. She saw her husband lying there on a sofa, drinking all wine and so on. And she went to Chintamani and said, I beg you, oh best lady, allow my husband for one day to come back home and do the funeral ceremonies for his father who has died. Chintamani said, of course, I'm sorry. And sent Bilva Mangala over. So when Bilva Mangala Thakur was with in the ceremony, the death of his dead father, he felt so much desire to be with Chintamani that he told the priest, hurry, hurry, hurry. And when the ceremony was over, he immediately left all the relatives. He left his wife to go back to Chintamani to spend the night with her. But when he came to the river Krishnaveni, a storm had created high waves, and he was not able to find a boat which would take him across the river. So he stood there and he thought, I might die when I try to cross the raging river, but I will die for sure if I do not see Chintamani. So he plunged into the river. He was swimming, and when he was very exhausted, at the end of his strength, he saw something which looked like a log, like a Baumstamm, a tree coming by, a cut tree. So he held on to it, and he crossed with the help of this tree the river. When he had just reached the other bank, he saw this was not a piece of wood, it was a dead body. You know who it was? It was his own wife. When his wife had seen that Bilva Mangala had left the ceremonies for his dead father, she had come and looked for her husband, and when she couldn't find her husband, she had thrown herself into the raging river of the Krishnaveni river and died. And it's with his dead wife's body that he crossed the river back. When he finally saw Chintamani, his body was bleeding. He was near his own death. And Chintamani saw him and he thought, I thought you couldn't come. It's night. It's storm. The river cannot be passed. What do you want? Bilva Mangala looked on her, at her, totally overcome with desire, and he said, I want you. And she said, Bilva Mangala, your name is auspicious one, but you are inauspicious. For this little flesh, this blood, you are sacrificing everything. If you would have sacrificed only a little to reach Lord Krishna in Vrindavan, you would have been self-realized by now. When these words entered Bilva Mangala, his old sanskaras, these are old impressions, were awakened, and he remembered that in his past life, before he was born, he was already a devotee. He was already on the spiritual path. But because he had again become a victim to material desires, He could not pursue his path of self-realization and had to be born again. So he progressed in that life as Bilva Mangala, but then he came again to the same brick wall, you could say also the same soul issue, the same obstacle which he had not been able to cross in his past life. Do you understand? Is it possible for you to understand? No, yes. You can understand. This is what happens to each single one of us. At a certain time in our life, we have gotten a wake-up call. For Bilva Mangala Thakur, the wake-up call were the words of Chintamani, who told him, "You fool! You are wasting your life. Can't you see what you do?" When she said it like this, his old convictions, his old samskara totally came up. See, samskaras is something which all of us most probably have. It's something like when you are when you have a bank account, you may have 1,500 rupees on the bank, or that's let us say 10,500 rupees on the bank, or how much you have in Germany. Well, you are low-income people, you have maybe 250 euros on the bank. So when you go to the bank and you want to draw this out, this 250 euros, you write something and then it comes out. This is an analogy for samskaras. We all have spiritual impressions with us, and when the right moment comes, we draw them out. They come out and we become awakened. Just like Bilva Mangala Thakur, when he heard Chintamani saying, "You fool, you're wasting your life," everything came back and he thought, "Oh no, what have I done? I've spoiled my life. I have not taken care of my spiritual development. In fact, I stopped to progress, but now I will continue. I will continue on my path." This has happened to all of you. You met devotees and something in you came to life and said, "This is my path. I want to also do this. I do not care what other people say. I will go the spiritual path." What has happened is you have withdrawn or drawn out your old samskaras, your old sukriti, your old 250 rupees or 10,500 rupees. It has come out and it's now with you. And you now need to progress. You need to move on. You need to be victorious over your lower self. You need to overcome your attachments. You need to see that you can move beyond the point where you ended last life. And rest assured, as you're trying to advance, the same soul issues, the same spiritual obstacles will come. And at this time, it's important for you to see that you will become victorious over them, that you will act more maturely, that you will act more in Krishna consciousness. Bilva Mangala could do this. He immediately decided, let me go. The next morning, he said to Chintamani, "I'm going to the ashram of Somagiri. I will stay there and learn Krishna consciousness." And Chintamani said, "Good, I'm also giving up this life as a royal prostitute, as a courtesan." And she went with her veena, that means her stringed instrument, to Haridwar. She left everything behind. She became a sadhvi, a female sadhu, a female saint. Yes. Old sanskaras or old spiritual impressions usually come up or come out in such a situation where some crisis comes, something like in Bilva Mangala Thakur's life, where his father died, his wife died, and Chintamani told him directly into his face that he lived a wrong life, a very incorrect life. Then he was awakened, and all his spiritual impressions from his last life became activated again. Crises are often in spiritual life a turning point where our old spirituality becomes activated. It's almost, many of you have computers, it's almost like old and forgotten files are somehow activated, and wow, there it is. The last 2 years, now it's there. So in the same way, your old sukritis, your old sanskaras, your old impressions about spiritual life become activated. That's not enough, because you will again also face your old obstacles, your old issues, your old attachments, your old problems. And you will then have to see, how do I act in this life in a more mature way? How do I complete what I started in a past life, but which I could not finish at that time, because I stopped at a certain stage of my evolution. So, what can we do to go further, to become more active in our spiritual life? My dear devotees, I had one very good friend. His name was His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. Who of you has read books from him? Very good. Very nice practical books, isn't it? With good advices. This is a problem, do like this and you will overcome. 4 days before Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj died, we had our last conversation. We used to have long walks together, sometimes for half a day, where we would talk amongst friends. And so it was natural for him, for us to be in contact when he was dying and was lying on his deathbed. So 4 days before he left his body and left the world, we had our last communication, and he said, I have a question for you, SACINANDANA Swami. Would you like to know his question? Yeah. Why? Interest. Interest. Good. No, just checking on you. So he said, in our heart are 2 dogs fighting. Who will win? Difficult question. He said, I'm serious, I'm asking you. In your heart, there are 2 dogs fighting. Who will win?
Der gefuttert wird. Der gefuttert wird. Die man futtert.
Aha! Yes, thank you.
They're stronger.
Who you make stronger? Huh? I didn't want to answer, because I usually say the wrong things when there are such complicated questions. And then he gave the answer, and I think you gave the answer in the back. He said, that dog will win whom you give food, because he will become stronger. will be able. Verstehst du dann? Gut. So that in our heart there are also two sides. One is a material side, which wants many of the things which normal people want, and the other side is a side which was most probably active already in the past. It's a side which only wants Krishna. No? So they are sometimes opposed to each other. One thing, oh, I want to go to the temple, says the spiritual side. The other side says, there's a good movie. I want to go to the movie. The temple movie. Where do I go now? Something like, I'm giving an innocent example. I could give examples where you would blush, wo du erröten würdest vor Scham. It is a question, which side in you will you nourish? Which side in you will you give food? I have a very good suggestion what you can do each day at home to give food to the spiritual side in you. This is the same thing which Bilva Mangala Thakur did. Remember, he had just woken up from his material illusions. You have to nourish the spiritual side, and you can do so with a simple program where you chant every day a certain number of rounds, read every day in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then, without fail, take all the food which you wish to eat and first offer them, this food, to Krishna. Make it sacred food, divine food, spiritual food, which nourishes you, which does not only nourish you in a physical way, but also in a spiritual way. And then as you become stronger, this material karma, means material desires, will slowly go. And how will it go? Because Krishna will become pleased with you. Bilva Mangala Thakur went first into an ashram, and after 1 year, so many people wanted to see him, and there was always so many visitors who wanted to see the sinner who had become a saint, that he decided he wanted to go to Vrindavan Dham. So one morning he said goodbye to his guru, Somagiri. Please give me your permission, I must go to Vrindavan. And Somagiri said, yes, you may go. And he went, but on the way he had an accident again. He became attracted to a married wife, and he felt so ashamed for this that he voluntarily took 2 sharp needles and blinded himself. And the woman saw this, and her husband saw this. They said, what have you done? You are a saint, stay in our house. But he said, no, it's all right. Now these eyes do not bind me to the world, and I don't need these eyes any longer. I need only eyes to see my Krishna. So he then went on a long way to Vrindavan. And in the meantime, Chintamani, who lived in Haridwar, remember, had heard that there lived a blind sadhu, a blind saint in Vrindavan. And people said he would be able to talk with Krishna. And Krishna would come and give him kheer, sweeter. So Chintamani thought, could it be that this is my old lover, Bilvamangala. So one day she came, she said, and she saw, wow, this young sadhu, beautiful sadhu, had a happy smile around his face, but he was blind. So she asked him, did you do this to you because I spoke such harsh words to you? I said, you are a fool, you are amangal, means inauspicious. Bilvamangala Thakur said, is it you, Chintamani? And Chintamani was just crying. Did you do this because I spoke such harsh words to you? Bilvamangala said, no. No, I did it because I only wanted to see Krishna. I don't want to see the things of this world and the people of this world any longer. And then he told her everything, and he said, after I was blind, I was walking, and sometimes I was falling into a ditch. But there was a little boy who came and said, hey, blind sadhu, come, I help you out of the ditch. One time I walked and I fell into a pond, and as I was drowning, there was again someone just catching me and pulling me out of the pond, Teich, Tümpel. And I said, who are you? And he said, I am just someone, I live here. Where do you want to go? And I said, I want to go to Vrindavan to see Krishna. And the boy said, oh, I'm also going to Vrindavan. Come, I bring you to Vrindavan. One day, said Bilvamangala Thakur, the boy said, now we have arrived in Vrindavan. I will come tomorrow and I will build a hut for you. But first take this sweet rice. And he gave me a whole cup of good sweet rice. So Chintamani was just crying. Bilvamangala said, who do you think this boy is? Chintamani said, it is he for whom you poked your eyes out. Oh. So at that moment, there was a little voice, blind sadhu, blind sadhu, blind, Bill, I'm here, I brought an extra cup of sweet rice. So when Chintamani heard this, she ran out. There was a little boy who had a handful of a clay pot with nice sweet rice. And she just grabbed his feet and said, you must be Krishna, you must be Krishna. She said, and the boy said, no, I'm just someone, please don't, please leave my feet, I need to go to my mother. So Bilvamangala said, if you are the Lord for whom I'm singing, if you are the Lord to whom I'm praying, please show your form to her, because she is my guru. She helped me to go to the spiritual path. At that time, Krishna would come every day to bring sweet rice. Krishna would help Bilvamangala Thakur and had guided him when he was helpless and brought him to Vrindavan. At that time, Krishna could not keep himself hidden any longer, but he showed himself Vrishimati Radharani. Jai Sri Krishna. And showed himself. And then both the devotees, Chintamani and Bilvamangala, paid their obeisances. There's a verse. Chintamani Jayati Somagiri Guru Me. Bilva Maharaj says, Chintamani Jayati Somagiri Guru Me. Beautiful verse. It says, I offer my obeisances to Chintamani, who said to me, I should look for Krishna with the same intensity which I look for material pleasure. I should just look for Krishna. And I pay my obeisances to Somagiri, my Diksha Guru, my Guru who initiated me. And I pay my obeisances to Shri Krishna, who showed me the way to Vrindavan. I pay my obeisances. May they be merciful to me. So, what I wanted to show you with this is two things. We all have started our spiritual journey, and many of us have come to certain obstacles, certain attachments, certain places where we stopped most probably in the previous life. We call these our soul issues, soul like Atma, no? Soul issue. They have come up again. Now it's important that we understand how will we move on from here. I see many of devotees who come to the Hare Krishna movement, they make amazing advancement to a certain point and then they stop. They just come only to the point where they left in the previous life. But now the question is, how will I make more advancement? How will I move on? And that is only possible if you make a realistic plan to feed or nourish is a better word, to give food to that spiritual side in you, and strengthen it so much that you will be victorious over the material side, the material attached side. Please, we are now ending an old calendar year. What was the year called? 2018. Yes. So now, a few more days, then you go into a new calendar year. What would you like your life to be like? How would you like to advance? I request you to think the coming days about this. What will you do for your own spiritual development to move forward? And I request you also to think about another question. What can you do to assist Srila Prabhupada and to spread this movement in the Western world? I'm turning very much to our Indian young boys, intelligent young boys from good families. The mind is working all right, they don't have mental issues. Please, you think we need you. You are here to learn, most probably at the university, but please learn also Krishna consciousness. Read the Gita regularly, chant your rounds regularly, and see how you can do some seva here, some service in the temple. Very important to do seva, because we are servants by nature. We are the eternal servants of Krishna, not the masters of Krishna. Servants. And also our Russian congregation, many of you I've seen have healthy minds, educated and so on. You're in a position to contribute. Sometimes our German audiences are not so much in a position because they are troubled. Krishna. So, in summary, if you have forgotten everything what you heard, you need three things to remember. There are two sides in us, one material, one spiritual. to develop spiritually beyond the point where we left off in previous times, you have to make a realistic plan how to nourish that spiritual side. That realistic plan should involve three things. Association with devotees in a spiritual context, chanting and hearing about Krishna. Then you should have a spiritual program in your own life. It's called sadhana, spiritual practice, and then some seva, some service which you do throughout your weeks, and then you will move on very nicely. Is that okay? It is okay. Good. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Shishi Gaunitai ki Jai, Gaura Premanandi Hare Hare Bol.
Jetzt kommt die Arti.
Okay, we will make a little arati now.